start off with, I'm going to machine up some timber for the plinth underneath here, as well as the moulding to go under the top there. So here I have a 3/4 inch cove bit to put a 15 by 15 cove into the side of this 20mm thick panel. The problem with using a 5/8 inch bit is that it starts at vertical and finishes at horizontal, or 90 degrees and 0 degrees. It gives you the full quarter round to create a 15mm cove. But if you use the next size up, being 3/4 inch, instead of starting at vertical and finishing at horizontal, it starts the cut on an angle out there somewhere and an angle down here somewhere. And so it transitions from the top to the side panels slightly cleaner, slightly smoother, because you don't have the hard transition of a near 90-degree corner. This is more like, let's say, 100 degrees inside this point here. I don't know what the angle is, but it's a lot more than 90 degrees. That's why I use the next size up. I find it better. It's just one of the things that I do. Alright, so now that this top has been planed smooth, I want to cut it to an accurate length, taking into account the moulding that goes under it, which is 20mm wide, as well as the moulding that I'll be putting on the edge of this top panel, which will be a bit of a thumb mould, so it'll be a 1/2 inch round over on the top surface, which is irrelevant, but the underside will have a 1/4 inch round over on the bottom, so I've got 20mm plus a 1/4 inch, that's a 26.35. I'm dancing around imperial and metric again, sorry. And so if I cut it 30mm over length each side and the front, that'll give me 4mm of flat to, well, just 4mm of flat. Doesn't really do anything, it just gives me 4mm of flat. So with the sides and front sanded, I'm now ready to apply these mouldings. So I've got the scotia that goes up under the top here, and that's going to be mitered around. So there's going to be a miter there and a miter there, 45-degree bevel. The external dimension doesn't matter too much, it is what it is, but the internal dimension must match the width of the cabinet here, or just a tiny bit longer. So I've got 898.5 across the width there. So when I cut a miter on this end and that end, I want my short distance to be 898.5. But I would never trust the tape measurement. I'm going to cut it at 900 and then I'll bring it up, check it, take a little bit more off, bring it up, check it, take a little bit more off, just until I've got the inside edges of the miter lining up with that edge there and that edge there, or slightly longer, say 0.2 of a mil longer. I don't want to be 1 millimeter longer, certainly don't want to be 3 millimeters longer, and I don't want to be 0.1 of a mil too short. I do not want to be too short. A little bit too long is fine, too short, start again. So now I can cut to that knife line or a little bit longer and it'll be perfect. So then to attach this plinth to the bottom of the carcass there, it's pretty much the same process. Now if you recall, I've got that rebate in the back of the plinth there, and that's going to, the bottom shoulder sits hard up against the bottom of the carcass. And then that face there is where I glue the plinth to the carcass. So my overall width is the short distance of the miter on the inside face of the rebate, not on the bottom part where it's a little bit proud. That's just going to be shorter again, it's going to be whatever it is. And the other thing I need to take into account is, because I've already profiled this bottom plinth, I need to make sure it sits centre to the carcass. I don't want to put it here, for example, because that would be stupid. So I've marked a centre line on my carcass and a centre line on my plinth. So if I line those two up, hold that there without moving it, get myself a knife and knife a line on the inside edge of the rebate here. I can't hold this still and get that. Alright, we'll try this again. Don't fall. Thank you. So I'm just about to glue this plinth onto the carcass there, and I've got the plinth held in a band clamp just loosely without any glue, And what I'm going to do is, the most critical part about this glue up is making sure that the front plinth is in the right location. If I push it too far left or right, then the side panels won't fit on with the miters that are already being cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glue on the front first while it's in the clamp at the moment, so that way the entire assembly self-centers itself. With the front panel glued on and the other side panels and back panel not glued on, I know that I can take this apart later on when the glue is set up on the front and then attach each side and the back, knowing that this front panel is in the exact right location because it's been held together as if it's been glued up with this band clamp. So it gives me a little bit more control over the glue up without having to rush around getting the miter joints pulled together and the back panel glued up and then everything glued up hard against the carcass itself. Makes it a lot more easier for me. More easier. Okay. So I've just got myself set up to put the scotia mould onto the carcass here. Now I've clamped my straight edge to the position on the carcass to the lower edge of this scotia mould here. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to locate the scotia mould up and down to an exact position, but it also allows me to keep a nice straight line. Because when you're dealing with 20 by 20 stock, it's pretty easy to flex under the weight of a clamp. And also on the back edge where you can't see, I've got a few marks aligning which way this goes. So if I just line up these, I've got a mark here and a mark here and a mark. If I get all three lined up pretty close, I know that when these side pieces come in on the sides there, it'll all line up, because I don't want to have this all the way out here and have to put this over here with a great big gap under there. That would be no good. Oh, and one thing, I don't want any glue squeeze out to shoot downwards, so what I'll do is I'll put a bead of glue along this edge here, along the top edge there. I'll place the scotia mould in like that and then roll it this way. So what happens is all the glue here, as I roll it down, it all gets squeezed out to the back, rather than if I roll it this way, it'll all get squeezed out to the front and down onto the show surfaces, which I really hate squeeze out, so I'm going to do what I can to avoid it. So now, pushing that there, and then watch all the glue squeeze out to the front here. I've just got the tops loosely seated on top there like that. And I really like it. I really like the way that the plinth and the little scotia mould and the thumb moulding around the top, it just turns what was a pretty empty shell of a carcass there into a piece of furniture. Just imagine once I've got the drawers in there with the false fronts on there, it's going to look amazing. And that's what I'll be doing in the next video, so stay tuned for that. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you later.